I know that. Sometimes I hear a student say that about a skill that they've learned. Oh, I know that. And they almost, and it's really, typically it comes from more of a beginner student that's just really learning a skill, and they're not saying it necessarily out of ego. They're just more saying it from the standpoint of pride. But what they don't sometimes realize or understand is they've memorized the pattern. They can do it in the mirror. They can execute it with good, body structure and alignment, and the eyes are right where they need to be, and everything is good. So in their mind, they're saying, well, I know that. What's missing that sometimes they don't realize is the progressive resistance that has to be applied to a self-defense technique to test whether a student really knows it or not. If they're working it back and forth with their partner and there's a predictable level of timing that's involved, the fact that they can execute it doesn't mean that they can do it under duress. So what does this mean, the idea of a progressive resistance? Well, let's use the scenario of a punch. The punch is coming at you. I think it needs to start in a very, very predictable fashion, where the punch is thrown when the person is ready. And it's thrown at a particular speed. There's not a lot of power on it. On a scale of 1 to 10, maybe it's at a level 2. And I think that's where you start, and I think that's perfectly fine and okay. But through the course of studying martial arts, slowly over time, as the person can handle it, I think there has to be a degree of progressive resistance added, where the punch starts to go, faster, it starts to go stronger, and it starts to come in more unpredictable ways to mimic what a real punch would be, entering a scenario like. And I think that's the piece that we want to be able to take our training to, especially with a partner that we trust their level of control, we trust their level of intent, adding that progressive resistance so you can really test whether the skill that you're learning is on point and will work or it won't. Sometimes we only discover mistakes when we get above a 6 or a 7 in progressive resistance. So the mistake wasn't there when I was doing it at a 4 or a 5. But when I go to a 7, 8, or 9, all of a sudden something starts to break down. How would you ever know that? How would you ever be able to say, I know that technique, unless you've taken it to that level? So look at your self-defense techniques, be proud of what you know, but also make sure that there's a level of progressive resistance applied to what it is that you know, so that you can have the confidence in the techniques working when they need to the most.